Hello everyone. So today we are going to continue our previous lecture, that is transport layer protocol. So previously in transport layer protocol we had seen about port number, right? Port number. And we also understood that why we need a port number, right? And now in transport layer, today we are going to learn about two main protocols in transport layer. Okay, in transport layer there are two main protocols. Sorry, one is TCP and second is UDP. Okay, TCP means transmission control protocol. Okay, and UDP means user datagram protocol. So as so there are mainly two transport layer protocol that are used in the internet, that is transmission protocol. You can see here there's a transmission protocol and user datagram protocol. Okay, so we are going to focus upon this particular protocol, which is TCP. Okay, so before getting into TCP you have to know few things about port number also. Okay, so we are going to discuss about that part, then we will jump into transmission control protocol. Okay, so in previous lecture I was talking about data, right? And this data is inside the something called header, right? So data is inside a header, it's like an envelope or a cover, and in this header we have all the information which is used for this data to get delivered at destination, right? So what is all that information? See, I was only talking about source port address and destination port address, but this is not the only information we have at the header. Okay, there are many more information we needed so that data can safely reach to the destination. So we are going to see that part, what are all the additional information we needed at the header file. Okay, now what exactly happens is when there is one data, okay, and this data is making use of TCP protocol. Okay, if this data is making use of TCP protocol, then this data will be inside one header, that is we are calling it as TCP header, right? And this TCP header has some information. Okay, that information, what is that information this TCP header contains, that we are going to see now. And this entire part we are calling it as segment. Remember this part, this entire part we are calling it as segment, one segment. Okay, this entire part, till this part we are calling it as segment, right? The data with TCP header is entirely called as segment. Now what will happen, this entire this entire segment is inside one more header, that is called IP header. Okay, and this entire thing is called datagram. Okay, or it is also called a packet. So remember this part. Now all this header, I told you, all this header contains some information. So we are not worried about what is the IP header information. Now we are going to see what is the information this TCP header contains. Okay, and with respect to that we will follow our lecture now, right? Now you can see this is the TCP header format. So this is the data, okay, and this is the header, and I told you there are some information inside the header. So what are the information? First one is source port address, okay, and next is destination port number, right? Source port number, destination port number, sequence number is there, acknowledgement number is there, and these are all flags. Okay, these are flags, these are some bits, and there are window size, checksum bits, urgent pointers, options. So whatever the field which are required for this lecture, I'm going to teach, okay, and why we are using all those things. So there are many useful things for this particular for different fields. So we don't worry about all the thing. But now what is required is source port address and destination port address. So we will have a look about why we need this and how it is working, right? Now the thing is we already know what is port number. We had already seen it, but I told you na that port number contains, see, you can see there is something called 16 bits here. It is written, right? So that means each field contains 16 bits. This field can contain information up to 16 bit. This field can contain information up to 16 bits. You can see even for sequence number also 32 bits is reserved, right? So we understood that source port number field contains 16 bits, right? And destination port number also contains 16 bits. So if source port number contains 16 bits and destination port also contains 16 bits, okay, then with 16 bits how many port number is possible? If that port number start from 0, if your port number start from 0, then how many port numbers are possible with help of 16 bits? 2 raised to power 16 minus 1, right? If in destination port also, if the port number start from 0, then how many total combination of port number is possible? 2 raised to power 16 minus 1, right? This is a generic formula. So the range of port number is from 2 raised to power 16 minus 1, and here also at destination also 2 raised to power 16 minus 1 from 0 to. So what would be the last? So 2 raised to power 16 minus 1 means 0 to near about, I think, 65535. Yeah, that would be the last bit. Means here also 0 to 65535. So this would be the last port number, and this would be the first port number we can assign to any application or something. See, this is not directly you can pick the any port number, and I will show you there is some category. Okay, so what they are decided is, see, what they are telling is, see, what is happening is all these numbers, I told you about all these numbers, these port numbers. This is controlled by one authority called IANA. So this authority will control all the port numbers. Okay, and what they have done is, this IANA, this authority has divided this port number into some three ranges. Okay, so there are some well-known port number, registered, and dynamic, which is private. Okay, now what they're telling is that, see, among this total number we have, port number is 0 to 6, 0 to 65,535 port numbers, right? Now this is categorized into three parts. One is well-known, register port number, and dynamic port, right? Now what they're telling is that from 0 to 123, what they told is 0 to 123, okay, this is assigned to a well-known port number. What is the meaning of this? This is assigned to a well-known. So what is the meaning of well-known port number is port. See, all there are many services. I told you that there are many. I given one scenario also back then, that there are some well-known services like HTTP, right? SMTP, POP3, okay, which is used for email services, right? And HTTP. For HTTP, the port number is 80. SMTP, right? Like this, POP3, all these are well known. FTP, file transfer protocols. So there are many, like there are many well known services are there. For them, they are already reserved for their processes, or any process which is running this HTTP, okay, at the server side. For them, the 80 is already reserved. So all the sender side who is sending that particular process, okay, data to that particular process, they know that at the destination port number is 80 only if I am using a HTTP protocol, okay. So all these things are we had explained in the previous class also why we need all those things. Okay, so I'm not going to continue with it. So we understood. So this is where the well-known port address comes. So 0 to 223, all these port addresses reserved for them. And next part is register port. Okay, so register port is 102424951. What is the meaning of this? There, see, there may be few. See, tomorrow this is all reserved port. So tomorrow there may be few new services may come. Okay, where we need more port numbers. So for them, they had registered for the future use. So that registration part is from 102424951. Okay, and dynamic ports, these are the port numbers. See, this range from 45152 to 6553, this is the range of port number which is allocated to a processes, your processor, private processes, which a user uses. Okay, generally whatever the application or whatever the process you run at your computer. Okay, I told you, operating system will assign some port number to that processor. That port number operating system will pick from this range. Okay, and that's why it's called private. One more name was imperial ports. Okay, so these are the private port numbers. Are you getting it? So that's why in previous lecture also, when I was using up processes, I had taken a port number of 5 to 52,000, right? So you can see it comes under this range. That is the reason I had taken that particular port number, right? So hope you understood about the port number. Okay, so I think we have covered all the things, most of the things from the port, well-known port, register port, and dynamic port. See, coming to this well-known port, don't get confused. See, the thing is that even in real world also we are using some services, well-known services, if you know, like police services. Police services are there, right? Ambulance is there. Okay, so police we know 100, ambulance we know 102, fire brigadier if you are using it's 101, I think. So these are the famous services which we are using in the real world also. See, if suddenly some medical issues comes, eh, and at that time you're picking up your mobile phone and keep on searching the number for the ambulance, then what will happen? By the time, okay, everything would be chaos, right? So that should not be happen. So the thing is, whenever you need a sudden medical issues, medical condition comes, you will directly dial 102. Then whatever the at that locality, whatever the ambulance, it will come to you and pick up that patient. So that sudden services we needed at that time, we know exactly those services number are well known. Those services number are well known, right? So like this, in our computer network also there are some well-known services. Okay, like HTTP, that is what I'm talking about. Like HTTP, Telnet, SMTP, POP, FTP, there are many more like this. So all these well-known services like police services, ambulance services, like this, there are well-known services. All for them, all the port address are already predefined, already well known to the client server. Oh, sorry, to the client processor. So when the client is sending a packet to the server, client already know, if the client is using, for example, client is sending a packet to a server. If client is using HTTP services, okay, he wants a HTTP services from the server side. Then whatever the process is there which is using a HTTP services, whatever the process, for example, process P1 is giving these HTTP services, then for that particular process 80 port number is already reserved. So at the client side, when he is making the packet, he have to enter my source port address, destination port address. So source port address that is already given by the operating system. Okay, randomly given by the operating system. For example, he is giving for 52,000. And for destination port address, if okay, that is well known because he is making use of HTTP protocol. So for if HTTP protocol means he wants a service of web pages. He might be using a web pages. He might be requesting a web pages. So for that, some process would be there which will take that request and give that service as a response to the particular client. And that process which gives that services, it may be a HTTP services, that port is already predefined, well known to the client. Okay, are you getting it? Now at the destination he will write 80, right? No, so when the packet arrives, that packet knows that this particular packet has to be delivered to this particular process, and this process know what to do next. If process know that this is a HTTP, I have to give a HTTP service, that means that would be something related to web pages. So he is requesting a web pages, I will respond the web page content. So all those web page content will be given to the client, and the web page will be appeared on the browser. So that, like this, for example, you are taking a telnet is used for login, all the login processes, whatever the login things you've done na, in the internet, for that telnet is used, right? So like this you have to understand. Okay, right? So that is why we had used a well-known port. Okay, so fine, I think you understood what I mean, right?